I found out my wife was cheating for my 6-year-old daughter.
Are you serious?
My 6-year-old daughter asked, "Why does mommy kiss Uncle Mike like that?" My wife of 9 years was caught cheating with her best friend's husband, and I found out through our 6-year-old daughter. I am 34 and work as a supervisor at a postal distribution center. My wife is 32 and works part-time as a dental receptionist. We have one child, our daughter, who just turned 6 last month. I came home from the postal facility around 6:15. My wife was finishing dinner preparation while our daughter played with her dolls in the living room. We ate dinner as a family and talked about our days. My wife mentioned that her best friend was having marital problems again. She said her friend's husband was working a lot of overtime and they were barely speaking. I felt bad for them because they seemed like a solid couple from the outside. After dinner, my wife went to take a shower while I cleaned up the kitchen. Our daughter helped me put the dishes in the dishwasher, and we talked about her school day. She told me about art class and how she was learning to draw flowers. Around 8 o'clock, I took our daughter upstairs to start her bedtime routine. We brushed her teeth together, and I helped her put on her pajamas. She picked out a book about a princess, and we sat on her bed to read it. Halfway through the story, our daughter looked up at me with those big brown eyes. She asked a question that stopped me dead in my tracks. "Daddy, why does mommy kiss Uncle Mike like that when you are at work?" I felt my heart beat a little harder, but tried to stay calm for her sake. I asked her what she meant by "like that" and when did she see this happen. Our daughter explained that Uncle Mike came over one day to fix the kitchen sink. She said mommy told her to go play in her room while he worked, but our daughter got thirsty and came back to the kitchen for some water. She saw mommy and Uncle Mike kissing like grown-ups do in movies. Our daughter said it looked different from the way mommy and I kissed goodbye. She described how they held each other, which lasted a long time. I asked our daughter if she was sure it was Uncle Mike and not someone else. She shook her head and said he was in his red truck outside. She also mentioned that mommy seemed surprised to see her in the kitchen. Our daughter said mommy quickly told Uncle Mike he should leave because the sink was fixed. My 6-year-old daughter had no idea what she was telling me. To her, it was just something confusing that she witnessed and wanted to understand. I finished reading her book and tucked her into bed like normal. I told her that sometimes grown-ups act differently and it was okay to ask questions. I said I would talk to mommy about it and she should not worry. Our daughter hugged me goodnight and rolled over to go to sleep. I sat on the edge of her bed for a few minutes, processing what she just told me. My wife was downstairs watching television and acting like everything was normal. Meanwhile, our daughter had just described catching her in an affair. The affair partner was supposed to be a family friend. He was married to my wife's best friend, and we socialized with them regularly. They came over for barbecues, and we went to their house for dinner parties. I had never suspected anything inappropriate between him and my wife, but thinking back, there were some recent changes in my wife's behavior. She started wearing makeup to work, even though she rarely did that before. She also began volunteering to run errands alone instead of taking our daughter with her. Last week, she said the kitchen sink was acting up and needed to be fixed. I offered to look at it over the weekend, but she said not to worry. She mentioned that her affair partner was handy with plumbing and could take care of it during the week. At the time, I thought it was nice of him to help us out. Now I realized the sink was probably just an excuse for them to be alone together. I went downstairs and found my wife curled up on the couch with a blanket. She was watching some reality show and seemed completely relaxed. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. She asked if our daughter went to bed easily and whether she liked the book we read. I answered her questions while my mind raced with what our daughter had told me. I sat beside her on the couch and we watched television together. The whole time, I was thinking about how to handle this situation. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately and demand an explanation, but another part of me knew I needed to be smart about this. I also had to consider our daughter and how this would affect her if it were true. My daughter had innocently revealed something that could destroy our family, but I needed to verify her story before making any major decisions. The next few days were going to require careful planning and observation. I had to figure out whether my 6-year-old daughter had just discovered my wife's affair. I spent the next few days thinking about what our daughter told me. The more I considered her description, the more details made sense. My wife had insisted on getting the sink fixed during the week when I was at work. She specifically asked her affair partner to help instead of calling a plumber or letting me handle it. She also made sure our daughter was out of the room while he was supposedly working. These were not the actions of someone who just needed a simple favor from a friend. She worked at the dental office Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 until 3. On her days off, she usually took our daughter to various activities or ran household errands. But lately, she had been finding reasons to leave our daughter with her mother more often. She claimed she needed to go grocery shopping or handle other tasks that would be easier alone. I began to wonder how many of those solo errands were actually meetings with her affair partner. The following week, on a Tuesday, I decided to test my suspicions. I told my wife I had to work late due to a staffing shortage at the postal facility. This was not true, but I wanted to see how she would react to having an unexpected evening alone. She seemed pleased about the news and said she would order pizza for dinner with our daughter. Around 5 o'clock, I parked my car a few blocks away and walked back to our neighborhood. I positioned myself where I could see our house, but remained hidden behind some trees. At exactly 6:30, her affair partner's red truck pulled into our driveway. He got out, carrying a small toolbox, which seemed like a prop for his supposed repair work. My wife answered the door before he even knocked, which meant she was expecting him. They hugged in the doorway, and it lasted longer than a normal friendly greeting between family friends. I watched them disappear inside our house together. About an hour later, I saw the red truck leaving our driveway. I waited another hour before going home to maintain my story about working late. When I walked in, my wife and our daughter were finishing their pizza dinner. My wife seemed slightly flustered and kept adjusting her hair and clothes. Our daughter ran up to give me a hug and told me that Uncle Mike had stopped by again. She said he fixed something in the bathroom this time. I asked my wife about the visit and she explained it casually. She said he noticed the bathroom faucet was dripping when he used it last week. He offered to come back and replace the washer since he had the right tools. She thanked him for being so helpful and said it saved us money on a plumber. Her explanation sounded reasonable, but I knew what I had witnessed. The hug at the door and her nervous behavior afterward told a different story. Over the next week, I continued monitoring their interactions more carefully. I noticed my wife texting more frequently and being protective of her phone. She used to leave it lying around the house without any concern. Now she carried it with her everywhere and kept the screen face down. I also observed changes in intimacy. We were in the dead bedroom, as they call it, in Reddit forums. She went to bed earlier and got up later, reducing our time together. When we did spend time together, she seemed distracted and checked her phone often. All of these behavioral changes aligned with someone who was emotionally invested elsewhere. The following Thursday, I implemented another test of my suspicions. I told my wife I would be working a double shift and would not be home until midnight. Again, this was false, but I wanted to create another opportunity for them to meet. She sympathized with my long day and said she would keep dinner warm. I followed the same surveillance routine and parked several blocks away. This time, her affair partner arrived at our house around 7:15. Instead of a toolbox, He carried a bottle of wine and what looked like takeout food. This was not a maintenance visit, but a planned dinner date. I watched him stay for over 2 hours before leaving around 9:30. When I came home at my supposed regular time, my wife was already in bed. She claimed she was tired and had eaten an early dinner with our daughter, but I could smell the remnants of wine and different food than what was in our refrigerator. I also noticed 2 wine glasses in the dishwasher, which confirmed my suspicions. The next morning, I decided to have a conversation with our daughter about what she had been seeing. I waited until my wife left for work and approached the topic carefully. I asked our daughter if Uncle Mike had been coming over to fix things while I was at work. She said yes and counted on her fingers that he had been there 3 times recently. Our daughter described how Mommy always sent her to her room when Uncle Mike visited. She said she could hear them talking and laughing in the kitchen or living room. Our daughter also mentioned that Mommy seemed happier after Uncle Mike's visits. She said Mommy would sing songs and be in a good mood for the rest of the evening. My daughter's observations painted a clear picture of an ongoing affair. The visits were happening regularly when I was not home. My wife was deliberately keeping our daughter away from witnessing their interactions. I realized I needed to gather concrete evidence before confronting anyone. My 6-year-old daughter's testimony would not be enough in a potential divorce proceeding. I needed to document the pattern of visits and potentially catch them in a compromising situation. But I also had to be careful not to traumatize our daughter or create unnecessary drama. The next phase of my investigation would require more strategic planning. I had confirmed that my suspicions were correct, but now I needed proof. I decided to confront my wife the following Saturday afternoon. I wanted to have this conversation when our daughter was not around to witness it. My mother-in-law had offered to take our daughter to the zoo for the day. This gave me the perfect opportunity to address what I had discovered. After they left, I found my wife in our home office paying bills. She was sitting at the desk with paperwork spread out in front of her. I walked in and closed the door behind me, which got her attention immediately. She looked up and asked if everything was okay, because I seemed serious. I sat down in the chair across from her desk and took a deep breath. I told her we needed to talk about her affair partner and his recent visits to our house. Her face immediately changed, and she became visibly uncomfortable. She asked what I meant and tried to maintain an innocent expression. I explained that our daughter had told me about seeing them kiss in the kitchen last week. Everything my wife was doing, she stopped, and she started shaking her head. She claimed our daughter must have misunderstood what she saw. She said her affair partner had thanked her for letting him fix the sink. I told her that our daughter described it as a grown-up kiss that lasted a long time. My wife insisted that our daughter was confused and probably imagined things. She said children often misinterpret adult interactions that they do not understand. I then revealed that I had been watching the house and had seen her affair partner visit multiple times. I described his 2 weekly visits with wine and takeout food. I mentioned the extended hugs at the door and the timing of his arrivals. To my surprise, she didn't cry and admitted that she had developed feelings for her affair partner. She claimed it started innocently when he helped with household repairs. She said they began talking about their marriages and found they had a lot in common. She claimed the kiss our daughter witnessed was the first time they had crossed that line. I told her I did not believe that explanation, given the pattern of secretive visits. She continued to try to deny it and begged me to give her another chance to prove she loves me. Then she said she would end whatever was happening with her affair partner immediately. I asked her how long she had been lying to me about these visits. She admitted it had been going on for about 6 weeks. She said her affair partner had been having problems with his wife and needed someone to talk to. My wife claimed she was being a supportive friend at first, but she acknowledged that it had evolved into something inappropriate. I asked her if her affair partner's wife knew about their relationship. My wife said she did not think so and begged me not to tell her. She was worried about destroying their marriage and breaking up our friend group. I pointed out that she should have considered those consequences before starting an affair. I told her that our 6-year-old daughter had been traumatized by witnessing their behavior. My wife broke down completely and said she never intended for our daughter to see anything. She claimed she always tried to keep their interactions private and away from our daughter. I explained that children are more observant than adults realize. Our daughter had noticed changes in my wife's behavior and mood after her affair partner's visits. Our daughter was confused about what she had witnessed and looked to me for an explanation. I told my wife that her actions had already damaged our family regardless of her intentions. My wife offered to go to counseling and do whatever it took to rebuild trust. I told her the damage was already done and I needed time to think. I explained that I could not continue living with someone who had been deceiving me for weeks. She asked where I wanted her to go, and I said that was her problem to solve. I told her she could stay wherever she wanted. I didn't care, but I needed space to figure out what I wanted to do about our marriage. All of a sudden, she was not willing to admit the full extent of her relationship with her affair partner. I left the office and went for a drive to clear my head. When I returned an hour later, my wife was gone and had taken some clothes with her. She left a note saying she would be gone for a few days, but didn't tell me where. The note said she needed time to think about what she really wanted. She also wrote that she hoped we could work things out for our daughter's sake. I called my mother-in-law to check on our daughter and extend her zoo trip. I told her that my wife and I were having some issues and needed privacy to talk. She agreed to keep our daughter overnight and bring her home the next morning. That gave me time to process everything that had happened. I contacted a divorce attorney the next day. I brought documentation of her affair partner's visits and my wife's admissions about the affair. The lawyer said that adultery didn't really matter in our state. They advised me to continue documenting any ongoing contact between my wife and her affair partner. The day I met with the lawyer was the day I filed for divorce. I had never imagined our relationship would end because my wife cheated with a friend. My wife returned home Monday evening while I put our daughter to bed. She waited until our daughter was asleep before trying to talk to me. She said she had spent the weekend thinking about her priorities. Again, she claimed she wanted to save our marriage and would do whatever it took. My wife said she had already told her affair partner that their relationship was over. She promised she would have no further contact with him outside of unavoidable social situations. I told her that promises were meaningless after weeks of lies and deception. She had already proven that I could not trust her words about anything. I told her I filed for divorce and left it at that. She tried to argue that divorce was not necessary if she ended the affair. I explained that the damage to our marriage was irreversible. She had brought another man into our home while our daughter was present. Our daughter had been exposed to inappropriate behavior that confused and upset her. The trust that took 9 years to build had been destroyed in 6 weeks. My wife begged me to consider counseling before making any permanent decisions. She offered to attend individual therapy and couples counseling. I told her that counseling might help her understand why she made these choices, but it would not change the fact that she had betrayed our family. My wife was served at her job. The divorce process was finalized in just 5 months. She sent letters apologizing and asking for another chance to prove herself. She claimed she had learned from her mistakes and would never betray me again. I maintained that the relationship was over and focused on protecting our daughter's interests. We agreed to share custody with our daughter, spending equal time at both homes. I stayed in the house, which was a rental, so I didn't have to share anything there. Regarding finances, she took what she had and I took what I had. Unfortunately, as a couple living paycheck to paycheck, we didn't have savings. The crazy thing was that we were just below 10 years of being married, and she didn't qualify for alimony. My wife moved into a small apartment near her sister's house. She took her personal belongings and some furniture for her new place. Our daughter adjusted to the custody arrangement better than I expected. She seemed to understand that mommy and daddy needed to live in different houses. I made sure she knew the divorce was not her fault and that both parents loved her. I arranged for our daughter to see a child psychologist to help her process what she had witnessed. The therapist said children are resilient, but need support to understand the adult situations they encounter. Our daughter has been doing well and rarely asks why we divorced. About 3 months after the divorce was final, I learned that her affair partner's marriage had also ended. Somehow, his wife discovered their affair. I don't know, I didn't ask. She filed for divorce and received a significant settlement due to his adultery. From what I did hear, he had to pay alimony for 7 years. Ouch. I heard through mutual friends that my ex-wife and her affair partner are still seeing each other. Don't know how long that's going to last. 1 year after the divorce, we are still co-parenting and only speak about matters regarding our daughter. Children often notice things that adults miss or ignore. Our daughter's innocent question revealed a truth that might have remained hidden for months. I am grateful that she felt comfortable coming to me with her confusion. Some relationships cannot survive certain betrayals, regardless of apologies or promises. My ex-wife made choices that permanently altered our family structure. The consequences of those choices will affect our daughter for the rest of her life. But children are resilient and can thrive in stable, honest environments. Our daughter now has 2 homes where she is loved and protected. She no longer has to witness the tension and deception that filled our house. That might ultimately be better for her emotional development. The experience taught me to pay attention to subtle changes in behavior and communication. Red flags often appear gradually and can be easy to dismiss individually. Furthermore, I want to thank Tony for allowing me to send in my story. If you like this type of content, subscribe for more. Until next time,